Esoterica, the podcast, where we discuss and review the unusual, offbeat, and out of print. Whether it be vinyl, VHS, board games, books, anything that strikes our fancy. I'm Chris Schultz.
I'm Aaron Christian.
And tonight, we get another exciting episode for you.
Yes.
After you're done listening to us tonight, make sure you check us out on esotericathepodcast.com, where you'll find links to all of our relevant content.
All relevant and amazing content.
And some irrelevant as well, but definitely worth
Some
it.
irreverent. No.
Mostly irreverent.
Mostly irreverent.
I'd say that's my middle name, but what do I usually say is my middle name? I have several middle names.
Gregory.
When I was
Wait, is that your actual middle name?
It is Gregory.
Oh. I think I meant Michael because they messed up on the. Oh my gosh.
When I was a kid, there was this toy vampire bat with a invisible stomach that would, if you pumped him, you could see the blood flowing through him.
Yeah.
And he was Grigori the bat, and I seriously wanted my middle name to change to Grigori.
Grigori.
Gory's
in blood.
But
I get
my
it.
parents wouldn't go for that. So before we dive into our usual thingamajiggy, we have a beverage to test out tonight.
Inadvertent tradition.
Or inadvertent tradition, which we've upped the ante a bit with an actual rating system now.
Yes, yeah.
So I brought the beverage tonight, and it is a variation on the classic Dr. Pepper. This is Dr. Pepper and cream soda. So unlike the Sprite ginger, which just adds the taste, was supposed to add the taste of ginger, this is, I guess, actual cream soda mixed in with Dr. Pepper soda cola.
Yeah, and I don't like either of these sodas. So I'll be honest with you. I think putting them together will make me like them.
It could, sometimes that combination makes it
Yeah.
right.
I actually hate Dr. Pepper more than I hate cream soda. Cream soda I can tolerate.
Really? I love Dr. Pepper.
You know what I've always wanted to try was a dreamsicle, orange soda and cream soda together.
That could be good. My Facebook is blowing up at me all
It
of a
is.
sudden. Okay, so let's crack it open.
I'm not going to tap it like a weirdo.
It's a habit. I can smell the cream soda right off the top.
Smells like cough medicine if you ask me.
It does have a sort of medicinal smell to it.
Medicinal. Don't make it sound better by saying medicinal. It
Medicinal.
smells like cough syrup.
Smells like Socrates. Well, here's to another episode of
Esoterica, the podcast.
Well, I've been drinking Dr. Pepper almost exclusively for about, 10 years now. And I love Dr. Pepper. That's not bad, but I think I like Dr. Pepper better. Just plain old Dr. Pepper.
Well, I like this better because I don't like cherry. But when I get the Dr. Pepper flavor, it's up front. But instead of like the carbonation taking over and destroying my throat like it usually does, and the disgusting flavor of cherry, it finishes off with like a cream. So it kind of soothes it. I like it in that sense. I'm not a big fan of the flavor, but I like how it feels in my mouth.
It does have... My wife always makes fun of me when I say it has a good mouth feel, but...
It's my favorite phrase.
It does.
Well, I didn't just use it, though.
I kind of have a feeling that the cream soda flavor is artificial. It says naturally and artificially flavored.
Yeah. I
happen to love, like, my two favorite sodas in the world are Dr. Pepper and cream soda. So you'd think this would be a home run for me.
Right.
I don't hate it. I enjoy it. But I'll be happy to go back to having these two things separate.
Now, maybe if we took both Dr. Pepper and cream soda and just straight up mixed them together, it would have a different feel.
So it's funny that you say that, because as you were saying it, I was thinking the same thing, because usually I have Dr. Pepper and cream soda in the house at the same time. I don't right now because COVID-19. But once I do, I think we'll have to do that. Maybe do a side-by-side taste.
And maybe that's a live stream. Well, so that was Dr. Pepper and cream soda. Not the worst thing in the world.
No. Okay, before we go any further, I want to take a minute to talk about the awesome folks at Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way. In fact, it's the way that we make a podcast. Let me explain.
It's free.
There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more.
And you can make money from your podcast. Best part, no minimum listenership.
Ooh. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
It's so cool. We found the service. We started using it. We're making podcasts.
Yeah, making podcasts, making money, having a good time.
So listen, you want to get you out there. You want to be heard. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Thank you. So later on in this episode, we're going to be talking about a sort of breakup that happened between two parties. So we thought that it was fitting that for this part of the episode where we muse about things, that we talk about breakups.
The experience that almost everybody's got to go through at some point in their life.
And whether or not you're the one breaking up or you're the one getting broken up with, it's typically just a sucky situation.
It really is.
Sometimes it's the right thing to do and it feels good to get out of whatever you're in, but yeah, you don't want to have to do it.
Yeah. So I hate to go back to Louis C.K. again. Son of a bitch.
It's not the first time you've used disgraced comedian on the show.
It's becoming a thing. He had this bit where he talked about, he was like, divorces should be celebrated because no divorce ever was the end result of a good marriage. It's always a bad marriage. So it's a happy thing that it's coming to an end.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't working. So I guess a breakup is a natural extension of that. Like no good relationship ever broke up. Like something was not working.
I think you could make an exception for like the whole long distance thing and just like trying to get ahead of the curve before things got bad.
Yeah.
Like it's good right now, but then again, like, eventually it'll get bad.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm a big believer, and there's nothing wrong with walking away when you're at the top of the game. Like if you know you've peaked and it's not going to go anywhere. Marriage is a little different because there's vows and commitment and shit. But if you recognize that you've had the best and it's not going to get any better, or like a long distance relationship, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Let's part ways. That's not how I've been through a couple of breakups. That's not how any of those went at all.
Yeah, I had one of those go that way.
My exes would not want to talk to me today.
No.
One broke up with me. I broke up with the other one. So I've been on both sides of that. And
I've been broken up with more than I've broken up. I've only broken up with someone once.
I think before my current relationship, I want to say I was in 3 major relationships. First one, she broke up with me, and I earned it. Second one, we both just kind of walked away from. Like, we were having a good time, and then it just...
You were at the top of the game, and then you were like,
yeah, but we weren't. I just think it was one drunken night that I might have got her and her friends high, and, like, we just woke up the next morning, and we were like, yeah, see ya.
Yeah, no.
And then my first marriage... I ended that, but it was under false pretenses. So.
Yeah.
But it was a spectacularly bad and messy, unpleasant thing. Sometimes when you're in that bad situation, you're looking for an out.
Yeah. That was exactly my situation with the only time I've ever broken up with someone. I actually met another girl while I was on a break with that girlfriend because things weren't going over well. And I was like, well, whatever. And then I kissed that girl, and I was like, you know what? This is why I don't want to be in that relationship anymore, because I know that there's better for me and people that'll treat me better than what I'm getting right now. And I wasn't going to be able to get out of it unless I did something that, made them angry at me, because, I'm supposed to feel bad for them all the time.
Yeah. Oh, so purposely cheating to force a breakup?
Yeah, and like, I guess it wasn't really cheating because we weren't really together at the time. I needed a break from it.
Yeah.
You know, I it was never meant maliciously. It was more to help myself. I needed something to get away.
Man, you know,
It's weird the places you have to go to get out of shit.
yeah, because sometimes you're in a relationship where the other person is not going to walk away. I had a similar situation with my first wife, and actually I remember I got real friendly with the guy who ran the convenience store across the street. And he was telling me, I went over there one day and he was telling me that the girls that lived in the apartment across from us were prostitutes, and they had been like servicing the cable guy for free cable. And I remember being really pissed because honestly, I would have been looking for an out at that point.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they never offered up to me. And why I thought that they should is the girl next door, her cat got hit by a car in front of the apartment, and it wasn't dead. So she had called the police because I don't know what the police are going to do.
Yeah.
But I shit you not, this is a true story. And this is Quincy. The cop car pulls up out front, and it's across the street. The cat's lying there on the side of the road, mewling and dying. Cop gets out, looks down at it, pulls out his gun, and puts a round in the cat, like right in front of everybody.
Ooh.
Then gets in the car and drives off. So yeah, so that was traumatic. So I went across the street and I scraped up the cat and I dug a hole and buried it for her. And do you think she offered anything up to me? I think I got a thank you. And I was stuck being
as a normal person would do, is say thank you.
But if you're in the game of giving it away, like you might say that was you earned a Hummer at least, right?
Yeah, maybe not like my cat just died by getting shot by the police. Hey,
Well, I don't want that happening while she's crying like that.
That's not a kink.
No, but like a little later, like, hey, thanks for doing that solid for me. Let me do a solid for you. But no, I just found out later that my wife was crazy, and there's that whole story. Story for another day.
Yeah.
That's breakups, man.
Oh my god.
Oh, actually, on the subject of breakups, you can say no. You want to hear some bad young adult poetry that I wrote after a breakup?
I do.
Right, awesome. I just happened to find this old journal, and I think this is actually after my first breakup. It's a short bit, so I don't mind reading it. And this was so long ago that I'm no longer this person, so I'm not embarrassed by it. Multiples of 7, strange numbers. What I wouldn't do for a Cuban cigar and a steaming jacuzzi. Feeling that in tune, running smooth, instead of feeling all jalopy. I'm a shambling man. Multiples of 8, strength in numbers. I have grasped the calm at the center of the storm. I have found the well within me. I knew myself before I believed I was lost. Multiples of 9, always coming up short. These muscles that ache began to do so today. The injury occurred while wedged between barrels, sawdust compacted around my legs, bending to release wrapped rocks, handing them skyward toward Chip. Multiples of 10, same thing all over again. I'm where I was before, where I've always been and always will be, within me. Holy shit, that's messed up. Because I'm back there, handing rocks.
The funny thing, as soon as you said it, I'm like, I've done that too.
So that was actually written after leaving my wife, because that reference to the jacuzzi was from our honeymoon. So, bad young adult poetry.
Oh my gosh.
That's what happens when you break up with people. You write bad poetry. Or
no,
you
it's
write
not.
good songs. Some people write good songs.
Hi. Yeah, 2 songs on my band's album. Although I was still dating her, so...
They were pre-breakup?
Yeah, and then I told her they were about somebody else because you can't just say that. But I needed an outlet, and I didn't know what to say. And then when I broke up with her, I finally told her that those songs were about her. And, I hate being that kind of a person, but when you're feeling like you're trapped, like sometimes you just need a way to get it out. And if it means writing a song like that that's non-specific and it gets out of it, like I actually felt better and like things weren't as bad after I wrote those songs because I got out what was on my mind.
Yeah.
But you can't really tell someone that I wrote a shit song about you, or a song where I shit on you, and now everything's fine. Don't worry about it.
Well, that's interesting because I know probably like a lot of songwriters. Um, Obviously, there's a lot of songs about breakups and bad relationships, or like "screw you" songs written about specific people. As somebody who used to do extensive journal keeping, like that's private.
Right.
What I write in my journal, I don't expect anybody to ever see. So I can be as truthful about the situation and about myself as possible. And for me, that was always very cathartic to get it out on paper.
Yeah.
Um, but that must be a very interesting experience where you're an artist, what your outlet is going to be consumed by people in the target of who you're writing about.
Well, the interesting part is that like I never thought of the whole like other people are going to hear this thing. It was more like I need to get this out and I don't care where it goes at this point. Like there are feelings that I feel that I'm going to put in a way that can't be easily deciphered, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. And if anybody can pick up on it, like I need help. Like read between the lines, I need help right now.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody picked up on it. Because I either did a really good job at making that a hidden message, but I got out what I needed to get out. I felt good about getting it out. Maybe because I finally put a message in a bottle and hoping somebody will pick it up. But now I have the police stuck in my head.
Message in a bottle.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of breakups, I think. So today's album we are going to be listening to / reviewing Falling in Reverse's album, The Drug in Me Is You. It's their debut album, released in 2011. Falling in Reverse is a band from Las Vegas, Nevada. They were formed in 2008 by Ronnie Radke while he was in prison.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so Ronnie was in prison because he was involved in this murder where something happened. There was some fight. I'm going to butcher the story, but there was some fight. And this other guy shot another guy, and he was there, so he went to jail for a couple of years. So while he was in jail, his original band, Escape the Fate, kicked him out because they're like, we don't want you in our band. So Ronnie, being completely angry about him getting kicked out of the band, there were people writing him letters, waiting for him to come back out of prison and like do what he's going to do. Formed this band, Falling in Reverse, while he was in prison, and started writing all the songs for this particular album in prison. And when he came out, recorded them. And so when we talked about breakups before, this album is a breakup between Ronnie and Escape the Fate. This is him starting his own new thing. And actually, at this point, I wouldn't consider Falling in Reverse in terms of popularity esoteric whatsoever. This is just left of mainstream enough that I think we have a right to talk about it. Plus, it's our show. I don't care. But yeah, so this band is way more popular than Escape the Fate is, I would say. That's subject to opinion, I think, based upon the scene itself. So we're going to listen to The Drug in Me Is You. It's their debut album, released in 2011. The first track on it is Raised by Wolves. And it really sets the tone for this whole breakup kind of album.
Okay.
What's really cool, and I relate to it, is when my band broke up, I felt the same way Ronnie did. So this is also kind of like how sports was when we talked about that. It's personal for me in that sense.
Yeah.
So
something you relate to.
yeah, so I relate to that. So we're gonna go through. We're gonna listen to Raised by Wolves, and we'll be right back.
One day they'll see it was always me. One day they'll see it was always me. It was always me.
So my favorite line from that song has always been, let me find it so I read it exactly right, but it is, due to mistakes I have made to the state, I am trapped inside a Dillinger, diligently thinking of ways, so this is like the whole thing, but thinking of ways to get out of this god-awful place. I have learned that my fate is something I can't escape. So Dillinger is prison.
Yep.
Right. And I've learned that my fate is something I can't escape. The band he was in was Escape the Fate.
Oh, clever play on words.
Yeah. What's funny about you just saying that is the next song we'll hear about is him basically just jerking off how amazing he is. I want to point out he is such an asshole. Everyone hates him, and that's why I love this guy, because everybody hates him. Like, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
Anyway.
there's something to be said for like just being earnest. You know.
Yeah.
I appreciate earnesty.
Yeah, but I've seen Falling in Reverse twice now, or 3 times maybe.
Mm-hmm.
12. I've seen them multiple times. Is my point. And every time, except for when they were headlining, like when they were just a supporting act, like everybody was all hype for every other band, and all the other bands were saying like look forward to everybody else except for Falling in Reverse.
I like this first track. That song did not end where it began.
No.
Total tonal shift.
Yeah.
Which was really kind of cool.
Yeah, and it tells a story too. Like when we talk about the next song, you'll see it too. Like drug addiction and this breakup with the band. Like his life is just totally a mess. But I think we talked about your poetry earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I would consider him a lot like a poet. Like his lyrical themes are really cool.
Yep.
So speaking of which, we're gonna listen to Tragic Magic next.
Okay.
Which I'm gonna say every song's my favorite, but this song's my favorite.
It's like your favorite.
Yeah. So let's listen to Tragic Magic.
Disaster. Magically, I turn tragedy into melodies over catchy. It comes so naturally, so smooth and casual.
So does anyone actually call him King of the Music Scene?
I don't know. I think to the point that I made earlier of this band's more popular than his last band.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like if it's a middle finger to them, then
Like look where I am now that I'm not with you.
yeah, like I can be better than you. You don't need I don't need you, but you need me.
It's a very boastful song.
Yeah, and that's why I love him. He's an asshole.
He's
You know, like
feeling it.
I think he's just so angry that it's coming out as like, you know, I did everything. Like this is what we are.
Mm-hmm.
They have a song when I thought it was really cool when they finally like patched things up as a group between the two groups and they finally started touring together and stuff. When he was in the band in like 2008, they had a song called "The Guillotine." They did,
Okay.
and then when after he left, Escape the Fate did with their new singer "The Guillotine 2" and "The Guillotine 3," and then Ronnie Radke did with Falling in Reverse, "The Guillotine 4." So it's a 4-part like series of songs that all technically flow into each other, but it like starts and finishes with him. And like it doesn't end in a boastful way, but it kind of like it ties things up in a knot, and just like brings it full circle. It's kind of cool how they eventually patch things up. How I got here, I don't know, but Ronnie's so boastful. Yeah,
Yes, he's boastful.
So this next song, if you're an emo person, you know this song. Every songs that get emos hype, there's actually like a list that people have compiled. This song is on there. Anybody that was born in like the 90s and grew up with this music scene, you know this song. You've danced to this song. You've been to a Falling in Reverse show and gotten slutty with this song.
Nice.
So my point is that
Part of the psyche.
this is a mainstream enough song. I don't know if it's ever been on the radio, but it's a mainstream enough song. But I like to think that our audience has probably never heard this song. I know you probably have never heard
Well,
this song.
yeah, half of the studio audience hasn't. So.
Yeah. So this is The Drug in Me Is You. It's the title track of the album. So we'll dive right in.
Don't fail me now. I've lost my goddamn mind. It happens all the time. I can't believe I'm actually meant to be here, trying to consume the drug.
So.
I like, so, you know, we typically use genius.com when we're looking at lyrics. If this, you know, these albums have them. And I think, I'll call them the liner notes. I don't know exactly what you want to call it for this, but in the right-hand column next to the lyrics, they talk about how this song, comparing the romantic longings with those of drug users, it's like a classic thing in pop music.
Yeah, it's a
right?
trope.
Yeah, trope. That's what it says here.
Yeah.
You use that word. In considering it even says at the end here, a good thing to note, love does actually cause the production of like mind-altering chemicals.
Endorphins.
Yes. It's like you need that.
Yeah, that's going to be my entire commentary on the song. I'm just going to speak out vocabulary words.
um, it's hard for me to think about this song so intellectually because of how unintellectually people actually look at this song. Like it's a hype song for emos. That's what it is.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of heart and soul that does go into it. I mean, you can tell that there is feeling there. There's a what Ronnie does really well, I think, is he uses a lot of really good alliteration. Alliteration maybe is not the word. Imagery.
Imagery.
Yeah. I don't know why I use alliteration. What was I thinking of? I'll think of it eventually. But he, his imagery, his metaphors, he does a really, really good job of that. And I think likening a love to a drug, as common as it might be, like it's straightforward, but he, I think, goes through the motions of explaining it so well in the song.
Yeah. It's catchy. It's what, 3 songs in the album?
Yeah.
No breakout into the death metal on this one.
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there. That's about like track 6 and beyond.
I just thought it was interesting with the first 2 songs where they're like, fairly traditional, like a rock song, and then all of a sudden we're in the death metal.
Yeah.
Which usually are 2 things that don't go together. So it's kind
right.
of
And it's really funny because you listen to this album is pretty straightforward with what it sounds like, but the next album is like way more poppy. Like elements of EDM in there. And then you get to like the later albums they do, it's rapcore, which is elements of this in here too, but it's just straight up like they're rapping the whole time. And I love all of it because I love the diversity. I hate that with some artists, but it actually, they do it really well. I'll give them a lot of credit. So
they're not like the Rolling Stones, like just trying to cop to whatever's popular at the time. Yeah, I just laid that down on the Stones.
I mean, it might be, but it doesn't suck. At least that's what I'm saying.
Right? Okay.
I mean, he's such an asshole. It might be, but I love that he's an asshole. It's actually a song on a different album where it starts off with "I'm aware that I'm an asshole." That's the song.
Well, honestly, if you're gonna be an asshole, commit.
Yeah,
and I'll have much
just
more
like when we
respect
talked
for it.
about Tiger King. Like he knows he's insane.
Yeah,
right.
Embrace it.
Yeah,
enjoy it.
So the next song is "I'm Not a Vampire." The guitar solo in this song, insane. Jackie Vincent is. I put him up there with Jimmy Page. Technically wise, that's why.
Okay.
You can disagree with me all you want, but
I probably will, but I'm looking forward to it.
It's a generational thing. You're just older. All right. I'm not a vampire.
So I'm glad that the title of the song is "I'm Not a Vampire" because he drops that metaphor pretty quickly. He's in the program, I'm guessing.
Probably.
Because it was funny because the line about whiskey being his holy water, I'm like, is he an alcoholic? And then he pretty much immediately goes into "I'm an addict" and like this is an alcoholic here.
I mean, just out of prison, between like the past year or so that this album comes out, what do most people out of prison do? I mean, I knew he had problems beforehand. They just go back to what they were doing before.
Yep.
Especially, I mean, he was only in prison for 2 years, so makes sense. My one of my favorite lines in the song is, "My head is always spinning from this dizzy, blurry vision, and my stomach has had enough. I feel like a lady that is pregnant with a baby because I'm always throwing up."
Yeah, that's drinking too much.
Yeah. Crazy. But to my point, like the metaphors and what he's alluding to, it makes perfect sense. You feel like a pregnant lady puking. I mean, it's...
Yeah, and it's funny. So we were talking about when we were listening to, good lordy, I can't remember their name now.
Oh, I love that band.
What was the album that we were listening to before this? The last one that you brought in.
Fat Boys and Little Men?
Fat Boys and Little Men, thank you, because I was blanking on their title. About the influences that shape the music. So he name drops Black Sabbath here.
Yeah.
But I'm totally picking up this more of like an 80s hair band vibe.
Oh, yeah.
Some Yanni Maelstrom in there.
Look at their music videos. He looks like he's from an 80s hair band.
Oh, totally. Like there's a little
thumbnail.
a thumbnail
Yeah.
of the video on Genius here,
Yeah.
and I immediately thought of Rat.
Oh my god, yeah. He
Um,
does look like the lead singer of Rat.
and that's not a diss. Like, you know,
No,
80s hair
yeah.
band music. There was some good stuff. There's definitely a vibe there.
Yeah.
He's laying it down. I'm picking it up.
So what's going to be interesting is the next song is, in my opinion, the only one that's really like it on the whole album. Good Girls, Bad Guys.
Okay.
Pretty much about what you think it'd be about. But it's got a completely different vibe. It's more like the vibe of their next album, which I think is interesting because like it's all like what something they haven't released yet is like.
Interesting.
So I like the song. This was like so the Drug in Me Is You, I'm Not a Vampire, and this song were the 3 singles they released. So these are the 3 most popular ones
Okay.
you hear. So I like the ones that come up after this because nobody really listens to those songs.
The deep cuts.
Yeah, they're the deep cuts. I'm a big fan of the deep cuts, especially like middle of the second half of the album because it's like just so deep that everyone doesn't want to listen to them. So let's take a listen to Good Girls, Bad Guys.
So why do good girls like bad guys? I have this question for a real long time. Been a bad boy and it's plain to see. So why do good girls fall in love with me?
So a little different, I think.
Yeah, definitely getting that like 80s hair band vibe.
Yeah.
Totally.
Totally.
Almost, and there's no way for me to say this without it sounding like a diss. Like, not nearly as tough as you talk.
No.
You know, I mean, the dude was in prison. I give him that.
Yeah.
But he's missing that growl of authenticity. It's
Yeah, I think what's really cool is he knows who to pander to, and that's the people that like that's their biggest problem.
yeah. Smart. He's a smart guy. He knows what he's
Yeah.
doing.
He looks so dumb, but he's actually pretty smart. I'll give him that. When we get to the end of the album, when he gets a little bit more personal with stuff, I think you see a lot more of like truly who he is come out, and that I respect a hell of a lot more. Like these songs are catchy and good and fun,
Yeah.
but like you see the deep cut stuff, like I that hits hard for me. This song, not so much.
And I get it. Like, this is probably a strange comparison to make, but Crispin Glover, you know, played Marty McFly in Back to the Future. He's had roles in mainstream movies. The guy is the weirdest.
Did you just say Crispin Glover played Marty McFly?
Not Marty McFly. I'm sorry.
George McFly?
George McFly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god,
Yeah,
what world
yeah.
do you live in?
It's a very odd world. But Crispin, like, he's one weird mofo.
Yeah.
That's a story for a whole podcast unto itself, how friggin' strange he is. But he's done these mainstream roles like that in Charlie's Angels to make money to finance his art. So maybe the same thing going on here. You sort of pander to your audience, give them what they want so that you have the opportunity to do your thing.
Yeah, I hear that so much more in his new music too. Like he does rap too. Not gonna get into that. He does rap too. He enjoys it. Like it's a whole different thing. You can tell what he enjoys versus like what he does to make money. And
Yeah.
I think it's exactly that. So let's move on to the next song. Pick Up the Phone. Pick Up the Phone's really interesting lyrically, and I think like I've never been in a relationship as bad as we're gonna see in this song, but like I can understand and relate because of past experiences this next song and what it talks about a little bit. Not to brag either, I can do the whole rap part in the middle. So you're gonna have
make
to
you do that.
And I'm gonna do it whether you ask me to or not. So let's listen to Pick Up the Phone.
Truly believe that the reason I'm here is to tell you the truth that your ending is near. One day you must look at yourself in the mirror. I still don't think that you are hearing me clear. You must understand that our friendship is still justified by the person that you have become, but because of the fact that enough is enough. Now I'm the one that is holding the gun. Well, this will be the end of us. I have tried.
Well,
That was a bad relationship.
so I have a small thing to say about this. Every time I go to Hull, at Pemberton Point in Hull,
Yep.
I have to listen to this song, except for the one time we went on that camping trip. I didn't. But I have to listen to this song before I drive all the way to Pemberton Point and just like sit out and look out at the water. I can see Boston, the planes flying overhead. I need to listen to this song. Reason being is like two or threefold. The ex-girlfriend that I talked about earlier,
Yep.
with, in relation to this song, showed me this band. One.
Okay.
So that's a little weird. But it reminds me of that relationship so much, except for the whole like kicking and screaming and fighting and breaking limbs and stuff part. But the
Except
whole
for when it gets violent, yeah.
except for the violent part, but the whole like pick up your phone, you better be with nobody else. Like I swear to God, if you are, then like your hell's gonna break loose. Like that's the kind of tight leash that I was on. That he's obviously on the other end of it, but it's kind of like it's therapeutic in a way for me to be like, all right, once this song's over, like I know that it's over. It's really weird. So listening to it, like we also used to go to Pemberton Point and Hull all the time, and one of the first places she showed me Falling in Reverse was there. So all this kind of just pieces back together. Like I need to listen to this song going in because going to a place that I enjoy makes me forget about the bad connotations I have to it.
Okay. I can see that.
It's weird. I don't know. It's like certain things you need to listen to, but then this is one of them.
I dig that.
Yeah, it's weird, and I know exactly where to start the album so that this song plays by the time I pull in.
And it's funny thinking back to I was thinking of my first marriage, which was a very toxic relationship that I was in, and a similar thought that I felt those feels minus the violence part. So it's funny to hear you say that because I think it was in a similar situation there.
Yeah, I think we can relate just multiple years apart because we were roughly similar age-wise within 5 or 6 years, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've gone through that.
So.
Better to have loved and lost than never have loved
at all. So remember how you said death metal?
Yeah.
So that's starting now.
Well, the song title is certainly apropos.
Yeah, don't mess with Ouija boards. So we're going to listen to that, and I guess brace yourselves and don't mess with Ouija boards.
Look into my eyes. You will see the light. It burns so bright. The flame will never die. I speak the truth. Immortalized by you.
Can I say something about Ouija boards?
Yes.
They don't actually raise the dead.
They don't really do anything.
Well, you know what they really are a good tool for is getting in touch with your subconsciousness.
Yes.
Because if you are open-minded and you're using it properly, it will tell you things that you're not aware of, but it's coming from inside your own heads.
Yeah.
It's just my 2 cents.
Oh, I'm with you there. You know what about this song? Like, it's about. They put it really good and genius here. It's about the concept of Bronny coming back from the dead. Kicked out of Escape the Fate, goes to prison, goes through hell, and now he's back. And I used to listen to this song a lot going into Boston on the Red Line, because I had went through my band had just pretty much been broken up. We were gonna come back. We ended up coming back eventually, but we were pretty much done. That was it. We all went off to college, and the band was over. And my whole opportunity to have everything I felt pour out in music and on the stage, Ronnie said, is gone. So now I have to start over. This is a new beginning for me. So where do I go? What do I do? And I don't know. It's like a twisted way of giving me hope that
it can be done.
Yeah.
I can see that.
A lot of these songs, especially when we get to where I started talking about stories, I would just listen to the song and not have anything to do with it, and then sitting back and thinking on it, why I craved to listen to that song at that time, and making me realize, well, that's why I was doing it.
What
was going on in my subconscious
that it's speaking to you.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And I know there are some artists out there that refuse to interpret their own lyrics for exactly that reason.
Yeah.
Because they want the listener to get out of it what they get out of it rather than...
Right.
in a twisted way, going back to the Residents with that theory of obscurity, you take away the ego of the artist and you just have the art and how you relate to it.
Yeah, and I think let's apply that right to Ronnie. He's such a jerk of a person that maybe he doesn't want you to glorify him at all and think of him as a horrible person. So you just take at face value what the music's about and don't want anything to do with the person.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's two different personalities there. From what I've heard of him, and then there's
because take good girls, bad guys versus this, completely different. This is about him. This is telling a story about him versus whatever that was.
Yeah, I was saying on one of the earlier tracks, I wanted to fall short of calling him a poser.
Yeah.
But I got that, not as tough as you sound, where this definitely sounded more earnest.
Yeah,
to
and
go back to
I don't think at any point in time he's trying to be a tough guy. He's just trying to say, like, these are the things that bother him. Like, this is what's going on inside. He's actually a frail person that can't handle these things.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't look tough, then what is he? Like, that's his persona.
Yeah, right.
That
makes sense.
So our next track is Sink or Swim. I actually wrote a paper my freshman year of college about called Sink or Swim. I think it's just because I was like the song, but just thought it'd be worth noting. So we'll take a listen to Sink or Swim.
I bid farewell to you, fair weather friend. I know someday you'll get what you deserve. And after all,
Was that some Dre up in here?
Yeah, so I forgot to mention Dr. Dre does do the bridge and outro beat.
Holy shit. That's so funny because I was on a totally different trip listening to that song, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's Dre.
Oh my gosh. It was really reading the annotations on the side. I noticed something I haven't noticed before about the song, and it is just looping back to the whole theme of the song being a breakup album between him and his old band.
Yep.
Because he needs to make the decision to sink or swim. Is he just going to let his music career die, or is he going to keep going? And I think that was his decision to create Falling in Reverse.
Some definite genuine emotion in that song.
Yeah, and like I said, once you get through the singles and the things that he needs to pander for, like, you can see more deep down inside what's going on. Yeah. And the next track, even more so.
So let me ask you, are you familiar with 9 Inch Nails?
I have heard of 9 Inch Nails. I know Hurt, and that's about it.
Okay, so Trent Reznor's first album, Pretty Hate Machine, sort of on the tail end of new wave. I guess you could say sort of poppy. I don't think poppy's a good word for it, but it was definitely more of a. It wasn't industrial. I don't remember the whole story, but there was some kerfuffle with his band, and he basically lost like the rights to all his music, or couldn't. He could break his contract, but he couldn't record new. So something went down. But his next album that came out was an EP called Broken, and he went from being like new wave to hardcore industrial, and the whole album was just like a huge fuck you to the record industry and the people he had worked with.
Yeah.
I get a definite vibe of that here. That same sort of just raw.
And if we ever, because we've talked about it and hinted at it, doing some sort of episode talking about my group at some point, just for the sake of having a conversation about it, I have some sentiment of that I'm sure will come out in a different way. Because I've never talked publicly about how I felt about that situation. I've talked amongst friends about it, but I have a little bit of animosity that I think in grievances I probably should air appropriately.
So I know when we were casting out our season, we've been, as everybody can probably tell at this point, we've fallen into what I think is a good format of a Chris album, an Aaron album, and we were trying to think of what to do for our last episode for the season. I think you just hit what we need to do for our last episode of the season.
Well, you'll see at the end of the season what we do.
Yeah.
Moving on, Cut Like a Fly. This takes you on a trip. Musically, maybe not so much lyrically. I think it's a lot more straightforward lyrically. But I lost my train of thought. So why don't we just listen to it and then I'll think of it and we'll talk about it after the song.
You'll catch that train.
Yeah.
Attention, attention, everyone! I got a couple things I would like to get off of my chest. Haha! Friends! Who the fuck needs them? You know who you are! Caught like a fly in a web of your lies. It's truth be told now, or it's meet your demise. So how did it feel when you held the knife?
So I enjoyed that song.
Did you?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because it started off with I'm going to say like almost a Peter Murphy, Alice Cooper, and I would throw in just a tad of Tom Waits.
So
Carnival feel to it.
Yeah, the beginning is in 3/4, so that's that pa pa 1 2 3 1 2 3, just that constant carnival type of feel that you would get.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because we were talking way before we started recording the episode about Circus by Eric Clapton, which I think is in 4/4, so it's kind of irrelevant. But
it's that circus.
Yeah, sorry, that's my point of Circus. Yeah, so, but the song kind of takes you on the trip. Like it goes to a bunch of different places and it changes, not thematically, but changes musically.
Yeah, as he kind of gets past. I would say being more metaphorical and going into more just raw playing. So I'm sorry to say, Ronnie, but I think we see the real you.
We see between the lines.
Yeah, which I mean, it seems to me like I'm definitely getting the feel, and maybe you put it in my head, saying as the album progressed, it's more about his feelings. But the songs, as we're getting further in, seem there's a lot more. To me, it feels like there's a lot more thought put into
like
the song.
Let's think about it for a second. How there's this whole emo scene, and people want to be in touch with emotions and have somebody that feels the same way. Mm-hmm. At the same time, like who goes track by track on an album? A lot. I'm sure a lot of emo kids do, especially with something like this, and can relate just like I did. But let's be honest, like. The mainstream group of people that listen to this, I'm sure don't. They listen to the popular tracks that were all in the beginning of the album, and then Ronnie has the freedom to do whatever he wants with the rest of the album. Yeah. And I think he does a very good job musically and lyrically putting you in on a journey that he's been through. So,
so I'm going to chalk part of that up to, I think we've lost something in the way that how we consume music today. Like when I think back to when I got an album, I started off with cassettes and vinyl, and then onto CD. So you had to listen to all the tracks, and anytime I listened to an album, I took my time with it. Each song, like I didn't just get into one song, and it wasn't necessarily just something playing in the background. I had a relationship with each track on the album. And I think as like singles have become more popular, that idea of an album as a whole gets kind of lost.
Right.
So I think you're right.
And what's really sad about this album, it's one of my favorite albums of all time. Just came out on vinyl this year. If you want the limited edition that came out for the gold, $89.
Boo.
Not spending $89 on it. And in England, just exclusively in England, they're releasing a purple edition of this album. It's like €19, which €1 is like $1.20. Mm-hmm. So looking at over $20 for an album, which I really don't feel like spending. So
goddamn hipsters.
I know. So everyone's ruining this album for me. So next is Goodbye Graceful. Clap back at Don't Mess with Ouija Boards. Similar vibe. So let's hit it. So this song in particular had a big influence on my latest project, Yuck Fu. Some of the songs I took a lot of instrumental elements from and made them into my own. So, just thought I'd mention that.
Interesting. Yeah, it's funny. It's one of the things sometimes I appreciate about when we use Genius to look at the lyrics. I don't want to. I hate when I'm dismissive because I don't like people being dismissive
Yeah.
of me. But a lot of times, that sort of metalcore shouting sound, I have a hard time taking seriously.
Oh yeah, no, I totally get that.
And I think I'm a victim of Metallica because Metallica was awesome, and then they turned into a bunch of pussy 50-year-olds who are in therapy.
Yeah.
And that just wrecked me. But I'm like looking through the lyrics. There's a lot more going on here, and I totally get like listening to it. Like I enjoy that too. Like my gym mix is a lot of screaming in the music. Cause, I remember going to the gym.
Oh my god! Remember how we switched our memberships like a week before gyms were closed?
Oh my God. Days. Oh Lord. Yeah, there was a cool track.
Yeah, it took me a while to get used to the screaming, yelling. I usually don't like it, but I think when putting it into context, it made it make a lot more sense.
And I think, I don't know, I found a little odd at first that some of the songs he would go back and forth between, regular singing and the screaming. But I think I like it because if the whole song was that, then I probably would be dismissive of it.
And that's a lot of this kind of genre. This, I'll call it emo for lack of whatever. That's a lot of what this is. Like Pierce the Veil. You don't know who that is, but like they're a good example of that as well. So
I still think from my experience, from what you've been playing for me with emo, that really the only difference is rather than projecting emotions, it's internalizing emotions. The song is, is singing from the person's own inner perspective rather than externally.
yeah, it's a lot less pandering than most mainstream is. And they do it in a mainstream way, which I think is unique to that. So we're on to the last track of the album. It's called The Westerner. And I know I said about Tragic Magic, it's like my favorite. This is the penultimate thing. Like this is it. This is my favorite song. I heard them play it live in May 4th, 2019 at the Palladium in Worcester. How I remember that, I couldn't tell you. And I, like, my jaw was open the whole time. I'm going to read to you, before we listen to it, the first paragraph of the Wikipedia early life entry, because I think that you'll appreciate the song more if I read it to you.
Okay.
So this is his early life. This is Tim. Ronald Joseph Raggy was born on December 15th, 1983 in St. Rose Hospital in Las Vegas, Nevada. One of three children born to Russell Raggy, and the others being his brothers Anthony and Matthew. Raggy's mother abused drugs and was absent from his childhood, which he said caused him to have a general lack of respect towards women as an adult, although he later forgave her when he posted a picture of her on Instagram after a Falling in Reverse show in 2014. Irrelevant information to this, Raggy's part Blackfoot Indian and Portuguese, but that was also in there. So now that you have that information, I want you to go into the song and just listen to it. It should make more sense.
Okay.
I didn't do that when I first listened to it, and I went back and read it, and I was like, oh! So it makes a lot more sense. So, The Westerner.
I was born one morning in December on the coldest day, abandoned by my mother, whom my father I was raised. My father raised my brother and I with a stubborn heart. My mother left me her good looks and confidence. Well, I spent most of my teenage years searching for her love. I could not find it anywhere, so I turned to drugs.
So that was The Westerner, and that was the album. Did you catch me reading that? Did that help?
Yeah. The backstory definitely gave it a different spin.
Yeah, even like the first few lines of it, like you start to understand what's going on.
Yeah, I think. So I know we were talking about, he's kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
And definitely a braggart.
Yeah.
'Cause that kind of made me laugh in that song because he's like, well, my lyrics are the best. They're pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I think to be a lyricist is to say things in different and new ways, and he's
Right.
just pretty much laying it down as it is.
Yeah.
Which there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. And I think for this album in particular, right out of prison, you have a lot to say.
I would imagine so.
So it becomes a lot less straightforward going through. I think what makes him a good lyricist is how he uses his words, not so much, how straightforward it is. It's how he uses being straightforward. Like, if he's going to use a metaphor, you can clearly understand what the metaphor is being used for. It's not like some, deep dive into poetry that you can't.
Yeah, he's not being
Decipher it.
obscure.
Yeah, and I don't think he's trying to be. I think he wants you to understand exactly what that feeling is.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to the whole emo thing of like, you're not alone. Somebody else is going through this shit too.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I've got a lot of stuff this is Rodney, but like, I'm famous. I have my things too. Like, it doesn't just go away, So that's the album. One more thing I wanted to play was about a month ago now, probably by the time this comes out, 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
They released The Drug in Me is Reimagined. So when they were going on the tour when the album went gold, and they released that fucking ridiculously expensive record, they reworked The Drug in Me is You song completely. So it's a completely different version, and I want to play it just to get your reaction.
Okay.
So we're going to listen to The Drug in Me is Reimagined.
My body's trembling, sends shivers down my spine. Adrenaline kicks and shifts into overdrive. Your secrets keep you sick, your lies keep you alive. Snake eyes every single time you roll with crooked eyes. I felt the darkness as it tried to pull me down. The kind of dark that haunts 100-year-old house. I wrestle with my thoughts, I shook the hand of doubt. Running from my past, I'm praying feet don't fail me now.
8.
Really?
Yeah.
I was gonna go with a solid 7, mostly because I love Dr. Pepper so much, and I love cream soda so much. Those are like 10s to me, but those two things together were not a 20.
Yeah, I see that. I drank more of it than I normally would have. So I mean, I still got to finish it, but it's.
So you enjoyed it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Yeah. So The Drug in Me is You. We got through that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. So there was a lot of different things going on.
Yeah. And as we listened just a second ago, they're all over the place.
Yeah, really. And part of me wants to not like that because you kind of want to pigeonhole somebody in their sound, but I really like the fact that they're just like doing whatever floats their boat.
And like when you listen to them live, like they know what people like to listen to. Like they're gonna play The Drug in Me is You. They don't care. Like, I appreciate that if they're gonna do new things, they'll play their new stuff, but they know what's popular. And they're not gonna just try and shift that way because like they know when to pander and to pander right.
Yeah.
So I'll give them that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. It was a good album.
Thank you.
I can see why you dig it.
So what's on deck for next week?
That's a good question.
I believe it's Mr. James White.
Yeah, that might change.
That might change.
Yeah, so
well, I mean, we must confess to everybody that we are recording this episode like a month before it comes out.
Yep. And we had such a great time interviewing the members of Nervous that we're trying to reach out to some folks and do some more in studio ones. I could do Jim White's album.
Well, why don't we do this? And if you want to see what's going to be up next week, look at our website, esotericofthepodcast.com, under albums from our episodes. And next week's album will be loaded so you can listen to it ahead of time.
There we go. Ooh, I like that idea.
Yeah, which every week, if you go on there, the next week's album is always loaded on before we do it. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how about I do this? I'll give our. I'll be nice to our audience. I'm going to do a shuffle. So the next album we'll be listening to is "Hi, How Are You" by Daniel Johnston.
Beautiful.
Indie darling of the early '90s rock scenes. Outsider artist, but we'll get into that in the episode.
Alrighty.
So in the meantime, check us out on esotericathepodcast.com for all of our previous episodes.
Yeah, all of our content, all of our social media, all of our live streams, which you can now view on the live streams tab.
And at this point, there should be several up. So
Yes.
speaking into the future.
Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week.